together, you probably didn't even hate the Jews. That was just the meth making you crazy, dog.
Will you get back in the closet? You deserve a fucking ass whooping. All of you, get back in the closet. Go fuck yourself.
How much does it cost for fascism? How much do the taxpayers have to pay for a fascist country?
They're evil. They are actively doing evil. So treat them like the evil that they are.
The right to exist argument has been used now to the point where what it's going to mean is that the Israel you're talking about will include the annexed and illegally occupied West Bank. It's very interesting, the Israeli government has never said where it thinks the borders of Israel really ought to be and what it would settle for. I think it would be an immense help if it tells us where it thinks Israel's boundaries should be. Every other country does do that.
It's time to stop pretending otherwise. It's time to be ruthless, and time to afford them the same amount of grace that they give to their Palestinian victims, because they are only going to get more and more ruthless with their victims if you don't.
What's up? Mic check 1 2. Check 1 check 2. How's the internet right now? Are we stable? Joel.exe is just chatting. Okay. We'll start with headlines, then go into more specific stories.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A manhunt is underway for the shooter who killed the conservative activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University on Wednesday. Kirk founded the conservative youth organization Turning Point USA when he was just 18 years old and played a crucial role in President Trump's 2024 victory. Kirk was speaking outside, taking questions from the crowd, when he was killed by a single shot fired from a nearby rooftop on campus. Utah Governor Spencer Cox said, quote, "I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination," unquote. Here's Scott Robbins, who witnessed the shooting.
Absolute horrible event. You know, Charlie Kirk, he goes up there. He even has security to protect him from other extremists that have attacked him before, from just debating them civilly.
They don't have the video up on YouTube yet, so I can't fast forward through the Charlie Kirk shit, so we're just gonna watch it at regular speed.
And so people didn't expect that kind of thing to happen.
President Trump blamed the, quote, radical left for Kirk's death.
That's the biggest tragedy, is Trump turning this into a political bargaining chip, turning this into his Reichstag moment. I mean, people seem to think that it was either Mossad or Deep State. I'm thinking Mossad.
A suspect has been identified and even tied the shooting to his own assassination attempt.
Back on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise.
Steve Scalise? When was that? In 2017. I thought that was the congressional baseball shooting. There are more recent... There's been 8 in the last 5 months. I can't even remember them all off the top of my head. But notice he's not mentioning any of the violent right-wingers. Like, most notably, Vance fucking Bolter, dude. Melissa Hortman and Mark Hortman. No mention of them because they're Democrats. I'm not even a Democrat, but like, this is blatant hypocrisy. Anyone with half a functioning brain cell can recognize that he's turning this into a partisan issue.
And 3 others. Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
I hate this fucker so much. He's got my own dad using the phrase radical left. It's fucking repulsive. I hope my dad sees the end of his life coming back to reality regarding Trump, but I don't know. We all have someone in our lives who's been taken by the cult, you know?
Lives.
President Trump neglected to mention attacks on Democrats. Including the former Democratic Speaker of the Minnesota House, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, who were assassinated in June. Kirk was shot in the midst of talking about mass shootings. He was asked by an audience member about the number of transgender mass shooters in the country compared to the overall number of mass shooters when a bullet hit him in the neck. In the past, Charlie Kirk repeatedly praised the Second Amendment and downplayed the seriousness of gun violence. Here's what he said back in April of 2023.
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. Wow. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost.
Democracy Now! Is not trying to say that he deserved it. They're showing us why compassion is not necessary.
Of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
Charlie Kirk doesn't want us to be mad about this, okay? You heard it here first.
Kirk's murder comes after the former FBI special agent in charge of Salt Lake City, Mehtab Syed, was forced out last month after just 6 months on the job. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. In Colorado, a student opened fire at a high school, injuring 2 of his classmates. The gunman died of self-inflicted injuries. Authorities are currently investigating a motive for the attack. On social media, Colorado Governor Jared Polis posted, quote, "We are all praying for the victims and the entire community," he said. Israeli airstrikes hit Yemen Wednesday, killing 35 people and injuring 131.
What in the fuck? God. Were they just... It sounds like a bunch of people gathered together. Oh my god, is this the... Okay, I saw that funerals were being held in Qatar, but... Okay. It's not the funerals being bombed. Is it?
The strikes on the capital Sana'a and the northern province of Al-Jawf.
I think this was against the Houthis.
Come a day after Israel's strike on Qatar targeting senior Hamas leadership. Yemen's health ministry said Israel attacked civilian and residential areas in Sana'a, as well as a government compound in Al-Jawf province. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the strikes were in response to a Houthi drone attack that struck an airport in southern Israel earlier this week.
Oh, a drone attack? So you blast away 35 people and injure over 100 more?
Qatar's Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Abdurrahman bin Jassim Al Thani, said when...
There's no equity to these responses. nothing is measured. Israel is just full, fangs out bloodlust. That professor that's been putting his lectures online about how Israel is trying to bring about the end times by starting a war with the world. And it's working.
Wednesday, the Israeli strike on Qatar killed any hope for the hostages in Gaza. Speaking with CNN, he also called the deadly strike that killed 6 people Tuesday an act.
Did he just say Netanyahu signed the death warrants of the hostages?
Wednesday, the Israeli strike on Qatar killed any hope for the hostages in Gaza. Speaking with CNN, he also called the deadly strike that killed 6 people Tuesday an act of state terror and said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu needs to be brought to justice. The Wall Street Journal's reporting President Trump had a tense phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu about his attack on Qatar. Trump reportedly told Netanyahu the decision to target Hamas leaders in Qatar wasn't wise, that he was angry he learned about the attack from the U.S. military instead of Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli military reservists and family members of hostages protested and marched towards Israel's military headquarters in Tel Aviv Wednesday. This is Vicky Cohn, the mother of Nimrod Cohn, an Israeli hostage held in Gaza.
It's not only a march, it's also a protest that was organized by IDF soldiers that are against the war, and they say, like we, the families of the hostages, that our Prime Minister needs to stop the war and sign a deal that will bring all of the hostages back home.
Israeli forces have killed 22 Palestinians in Gaza since dawn, including 16 in Gaza City. 5 Palestinians were killed seeking food. Meanwhile, Al Jazeera is reporting Israel arrested 7 fishermen off the coast of Gaza City, holding them in an unknown location. Israel also bombed 3 homes in the densely populated Shati refugee camp in Gaza. This comes as Israel continues to bomb Gaza City, ordering the evacuation of nearly 1 million people. On Wednesday, Palestinians searched through rubble and debris at the site of a Gaza City residential tower building that was hit by an Israeli strike. Here's Magid Sukar, who is sheltering in a tent near the tower.
4 tons of explosives hit the tower. Our belongings flew in the air. Our tents are gone. Our money is gone. Our conditions have gotten worse. There's no shelter for us. What does Trump want? What does Netanyahu want?
Members of the global Samud flotilla are vowing to continue their efforts to break Israel's siege on Gaza after 2 of the group's ships came under fire, apparently from drone attacks while docked in Tunisia. After initial downplaying the attacks, Tunisia's Interior Ministry said Wednesday they were premeditated acts but did not name a suspect. Activists have directly implicated Israel, with a spokesperson saying there is no other authority that would do such an attack, unquote. On Wednesday, thousands of Tunisians rallied at a beach near Tunis to support the group's efforts to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza.
We cannot commit ourselves to Palestine without committing ourselves to all the other oppressed. But it begins with Palestine, because Palestine crystallizes all the complicities of our governments, And that is why we, the people, must take the place of our governments, because they do not do it. And we, people who have never sailed, commit ourselves on boats and are going to achieve the impossible.
There are dozens of countries represented by the participants in the Samud flotilla. Later in the broadcast, we'll go to Tunisia for an update. Israeli President Isaac Herzog says he argued with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer during a tough meeting at 10 Downing Street, London, Wednesday. Speaking at the Chatham House think tank after the talks, Herzog said Israel's war in Gaza is aimed at, quote, defending Western values.
We are defending Europe. We are defending Western values and the free world. with the blood and the tears of our sons and daughters and families. That's what we're doing.
As Israeli President Herzog spoke, protesters gathered outside Chatham House holding signs reading, "Stop the slaughter, don't listen to war criminals." Meanwhile, the front page headline of the Scottish newspaper, The National, read, "Starmer rolls out red carpet for genocide," unquote. According to Middle East Eye, the Crown Prosecution Service's Counterterrorism Division appointed a prosecutor to urgently review an application for an arrest warrant for President Herzog. Palestinian rights groups cited his remarks in October 2023, stating all Palestinians in Gaza were unequivocally responsible for the October 7th Hamas attacks. Despite the investigation, UK authorities made no attempt to arrest Herzog. Poland has invoked Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty, calling for consultations with fellow NATO members, including the United States, after at least 19 Russian drones flew deep into Polish territory overnight Tuesday. The incursion prompted Polish and NATO forces to scramble fighter jets as authorities closed major airports. On Wednesday, Polish Prime Minister Tusk told Parliament, quote, "This situation brings us the closest we've been to open conflict since World War II," unquote. In Kyiv, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky slammed Western leaders for what he called a lack on action against Russia, calling the drone incursion another provocation by Moscow.
From the first hour of the night, our military recorded Russian drones moving towards the Polish border. And this movement was not an accident or a mistake, but deliberate movement. The Russians used both our territory and Belarusian territory to push them into Polish airspace.
This weekend, Belarus is set to play host to major joint military drills of Russian and Belarusian forces. They're the first such war games since early 2022, right before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Trump administration is considering military strikes on Venezuela if President Nicolas Maduro doesn't step up pressure on drug cartels, according to independent investigative reporter Ken Klippenstein, citing military sources who said the Pentagon's drafting plans to attack Venezuela's military aircraft or to bomb its airfields. This comes just days after Venezuelan F-16 fighter jets buzzed U.S. Navy ships gathering north of Venezuela. Meanwhile, The Intercept is reporting the 11 people on board the boat in the Caribbean that was destroyed by the U.S. military last week were said to have survived an initial strike and were killed shortly after in follow-up attacks. The boat reportedly turned back toward shore after people on board apparently spotted a military aircraft stalking it. Republican Senator Rand Paul revealed the attack was carried out by a drone. Paul criticized the strike as a breach of long-accepted rules of engagement. The Trump administration's claimed without evidence it targeted Venezuelan drug traffickers. Legal experts call the extrajudicial killings acts of murder and a war crime. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has fired the...
I have no words, dude. America and Israel are just bullying, intimidating, and just destroying the planet. Destroying people, generations of people.
UK ambassador...
This is why the Samud flotilla is so important.
...to the United States, Peter Mandelson, over his ties to the disgraced, now dead sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein. A senior Foreign Office official told members of Parliament Mandelson had failed to disclose the extent and depth of his friendship with Epstein when Starmer appointed him ambassador. This comes after the tabloid newspaper The Sun published a trove of emails revealing Mandelson urged Epstein to fight for early release from prison after his 2008 conviction for procuring a child for prostitution, writing, quote, "Your friends stay with you and love you," he said. In Washington, D.C., Republican House Oversight Chair James Comer has rejected calls to hear testimony from a forensic handwriting expert about Donald Trump's signature on a birthday letter in...
A forensic hand... Isn't that junk science? Like, you can't even use that shit in court.
Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book. The note features a nude sketch of a woman and concludes with the words, "May every day be another wonderful secret," unquote. On Wednesday, Comer told reporters the letter has, quote, "absolutely nothing to do with the overall investigation," unquote. This comes a day after the White House said it would support a forensic analysis of the signature amidst Trump's repeated denials that he'd signed it. Meanwhile, Senate Republicans blocked a bid by Democratic Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to compel the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. 3 former senior FBI officials who were fired last month are suing FBI Director Kash Patel and the Trump administration, alleging they were let go as part of a campaign of retribution for refusing to demonstrate loyalty to President Trump. Brian Driscoll, the former acting FBI director, Stephen Jensen, who ran the Washington field office, and Spencer Evans, who led the Las Vegas field office, are all alleging Patel chose to follow orders from the White House rather than federal law. According to the lawsuit, Driscoll and other top officials tried to stop attempts to fire and punish FBI officials for working on criminal probes.
You think Kash Patel was going to be the guy to stand up to the Trump administration? The dude is honeypotted by Israel. He is bought and paid for, owned completely.
Of Trump. In Texas, immigrant rights groups and supporters are demanding the release of an El Paso DACA recipient after a federal judge terminated her deportation proceedings. Catalina Xochitl Santiago is a longtime community organizer who was seized by Border Patrol agents at the El Paso airport in early August as she was about to board a domestic flight for work. Santiago remains in an ICE jail even after immigration judge Michael Pletters ruled on Monday that her DACA status remains valid and that she cannot be deported or moved until federal judges can review her case. Meanwhile, more than 300 South Korean workers who were rounded up by ICE at a Hyundai plant in Georgia last week are expected to be deported to depart for South Korea today. At a news conference Wednesday, South Korea's president said the incident makes South Korean companies more hesitant to invest in the United States. And in New York City, mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani is calling on
Another day, another step towards global isolation for the United States.
FIFA to abandon dynamic pricing for the 2026 Men's World Cup as part of his Game Over Greed petition. Here's Mamdani yesterday.
It hurts because we know that while New York City is proud to be one of the hosts of the World Cup final next year, so many of our neighbors will not afford to be able to be there. They will not afford to be able to be there because FIFA is quadrupling the max ticket price that it will charge in order to be in attendance. They will not afford to be able to be there because FIFA is now deciding to use dynamic pricing for the first time in its history.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Coming up, a manhunt underway in Utah after the prominent far-right activist Charlie Kirk.
All right, that's enough of that. Mamdani's right to speak to what people care about, which is sports, so pretty good political move. Just wanted to see if the Electronic Intifada had any Starmer empties Holocaust studies of meaning as UK aids Gaza Holocaust. Apply the lessons of history and face prospect of jail. It's a hell of a picture. the sun's back there. Paris, France. Several hundred students and protesters clash with police as part of the Black-Quantu movement. At least 20 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks across Gaza since dawn, according to Al Jazeera. That's where my compassion is at. The daily death tolls that get rolled out from Gaza. We haven't forgotten. We will not abandon Gaza. The Samud flotilla is on its way to break the siege. It's likely to be there this weekend. I have to keep telling myself that. They bring hope. They bring aid. But they also bring a global example of how you should behave towards your fellow man when they're in peril, when their children are in peril. 5 more deaths, including 1 child, were recorded over the past 24 hours due to starvation and malnutrition, bringing the total since the start of the war to 404, including 141 children. Transport costs are exorbitant, roads barely usable. Most families have already been uprooted multiple times, left exhausted, penniless, and hungry while tents trickle in under Israeli restrictions. Satellite monitoring also warns that some 1,500 people camping along Gaza's shoreline face serious danger from tides and storm surges. God, and if you do survive, you're enduring just this indignity and torture. Since October 7th, Israel has killed 31 female Palestinian journalists, most of them in strikes on their homes alongside their families, according to the Freedoms Committee of the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate. The victims span reporters, anchors, photographers, and media coordinators. The committee says these killings amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Israel strike in Doha. After an Israeli strike targeting the offices of Hamas in Qatar that killed several office members of the group and a Qatari corporal and injured several others, Trump expressed regret over the incident, calling Qatar a strong ally and friend of the U.S. Only because of the plane that you got? He also directed Secretary of State Marco Rubio to finalize a defense cooperation agreement with the country. Okay, that's still not lifting a finger to touch that phone, to make that phone call to Netanyahu. But you'll do everything else under the sun. Fucking subservient dog Donald Trump is. Netanyahu said Israel acted wholly and independently. Yeah, we believe that. I wouldn't put it past Israel that they are not looking for any cues from the United States. After a shooting and occupied East Jerusalem attack killed 6 Israelis and wounded at least a dozen others on Monday, Israeli forces responded with sweeping restrictions across Jerusalem, Ramallah, and surrounding areas, adding checkpoints that trapped hundreds of thousands of Palestinians for hours, including one enclave of 40,000 people that was completely sealed off. What the fuck? Israel forces have arrested the mayor of Al-Qubayba, a town in the Jerusalem Governorate in the occupied West Bank, according to the Wafa news agency. Nafaz Hamouda was detained during a raid on his home. The latest batch of Epstein files to be released by the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee includes a suggested birthday note. Oh my god. And a photo of a giant novelty check with DJ Trump on the signature line, apparently buying a woman from Epstein. What the fuck? This is about as dry as it gets, folks. Just raw text. And news broken down by region. Ooh. Ooh, baby. I love me some dry ass news, dude. Oh, and if we just start talking about political theory, woof. Oh, whatever. The Nepali soldiers patrolled the streets of Kathmandu on Wednesday following violent protests that forced Prime Minister KP Sharma Ali to resign and set parliament and other government buildings ablaze, the worst unrest in Nepal in 2 decades. The demonstrations, sparked by a government ban on social media and anger over corruption, left at least 19 people dead and spread nationwide, with protesters targeting politicians' residences and public infrastructure. Damn! If you can't have it, no one can have it. If you can't have structure, no one can have structure. Fuck yeah, dude. A leftist revolution, dude. Let's go to YouTube. Let's step into the temple. Oh shit. 8 minutes ago. I beat you to the headlines. Sorry. Charlie Kirk, don't give a fuck about that. Sky News Australia is talking about Charlie Kirk. God damn. No, not the BBC. I want to find the... I think we might have already talked about it on the show or seen footage of it, but they're literally in the Prime Minister's house, like ripping pictures off the walls and shit. Look at that. Look at them running. Look at them running away. All these... Woo! Trashed his whole place. Whoa! Starting a bonfire! Yeah. Ooh! I should unmute this. Oh yeah, you're heartbroken about the deaths of citizens? I bet you're so scared. Look at this chump. Camera's not focused, chump. Ooh, protesters in Nepal have called for an interim government to be led by youth representatives. Hey, I like it. Look at that. No cars in the roads, but people in the streets. Not a car on the road, but people in the streets. It's beautiful. I feel like I'm looking at a precious gem or something, but it's so much more than that. I'm looking into an oculus of hope. I have a whole watch later. Let's see. This was crazy. This is ICE. Here's where we'll talk about ICE movements today. Get a load of this shit. They're trying to take someone in broad daylight on this crowded ass street.
God. They're literally taking someone. They're trying to. Oh my God.
They're all tussling.
I'm serious. Seriously f***ed up.
Like the feds are overpowered here until more of them.
More people coming. Oh
yeah.
Wow. No, they're lit.
Yep.
No, this just. I don't know what the is going on. What?
Someone's sitting in front of the car now. That guy trying to grab that person's wrist. Just yanked that girl.
There are people getting in front of the cars. Oh my God, they're running over the people in the cars. I do. Yeah, and the problem is they're trying to do it downtown on a crowded street.
He means that they're trying to abduct somebody on a crowded street.
Oh.
This is what happens.
Oh, wow. No, someone's going to get hurt. There are at least 20 people in front of the car. Someone's going to get run over. Wow, someone's hanging off the car. Oh my God.
Oh my God, he's under the... Fuck.
Oh God.
Still on the car.
Oh my God. Holy fucking shit. No, man. This is just... And the cops are there. I think the cops are the ones doing it. Oh my God. I'll send it to you. Holy fucking shit. Frightening times, right? What the f?
If you see someone you know getting kidnapped, don't let them get kidnapped. I don't care what they're wearing. Unless they have a badge and they say you're under arrest and start telling you your rights, reading your Miranda to you. Otherwise, you're getting kidnapped. And all bets are off, dude. We're jumping on the car. We're yanking people off of other people. We're not gonna stand for this violence. Alright. I gotta call it. I will be on later. Peace. Let's bring it in. Let's bring it in for a second. There's been some stuff that I've been watching where the conversation about Charlie Kirk, I'm really starting to... The things that I've been watching, Sabby Sabs brought up a great point, Sabrina Salvati, that why now, of all times? There was some strange coincidences involving Israeli intelligence, other people on other rooftops. There really seems to be more to this story than I have been giving it credit for. Is that the correct grammar syntax? I don't know. I have not been giving this story the attention it deserves, given the political complexity that is behind it. When Trump said generations to come in terms of carrying on Charlie Kirk's legacy of hatred, that is his legacy, hatred. When he said it will endure for ages to come, that felt like a threat. So I'm not thrilled about any of the developments, but there have been numerous developments. So we will start with the electronic intifada. Actually, no, we'll let them finish their live stream here. These are all hours old, but they're still pretty short.
Suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. A news conference just wrapped up in Utah. We want to get right to Mark Boyle at the live desk. You know, Mark, I was taking some notes here as we listened to that news conference. The FBI had some pretty big revelations, some new information about the suspect. A couple of things that stood out to me. We know the shooter came onto campus just before noon, and investigators were able to track his movements where he jumped off a building and ran into, and I say he, they didn't say if it was a he or she. Right. The suspect ran into a nearby neighborhood, so they canvassed that neighborhood going door to door. But one thing I thought was interesting, Mark, was that they said they had a clear picture of that suspect, but they were not going to release it, which makes you wonder if they're close to closing in on a person. What else have you learned?
Well, clearly they don't want to tip off everyone just yet. They have these images. If it's not from the closed circuit TV on campus, it will be from those Ring cameras, as you talk about in the neighborhoods, Jan, because he went through a neighborhood and everyone has those cameras now. The newest information from the FBI news conference is that they have those pictures. They know who the suspect is. They have not made them public yet. If you missed the briefing, here's part of what the FBI just gave in terms of the update.
The suspect blended in well with a college institution. We're not releasing any details right now, and we will soon. But right now we're not. But that individual appears to be of college age.
So that's new as well, believed to be of college age. Here's the latest information on your screen. This was just put together. So they have the high-powered bolt-action rifle recovered. That's the direct verbiage from the AP. So they found the gun. The Ring camera shows the suspect in the neighborhood. That will be key. 11:52 a.m., walked up the staircase and then onto the roof. So we now have that confirmed that, in fact, the shooter was on the roof. After the shooting, they say he jumped off and then ran to nearby neighborhoods. This all happened at the Utah Valley University there in Orem, Utah. That's where Charlie Kirk had been speaking at a campus event attended by maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people is the estimate right now. As he was speaking, that shooter, one shot, came out from the roof and hit Charlie in the neck. We're going to show you some of that video right now, warning you it is disturbing to watch.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Oh my God. And then take a look at this video here. This is of Charlie's security team. They were holding him there. 6 or so men walked him, ran him to that SUV, that was his personal SUV, and then rushed him to a nearby hospital. He died a short time later. The governor of Utah came out immediately talking about vowing to get to the bottom of this tragic event. Charlie Kirk was a conservative activist. He brought in a large portion of the younger generation into the party. I want to show you a clip now, let you listen. This is from the 2024 Republican National Convention, and then rushed him to...
Look at the other people on the roof.
A nearby hospital. He died a short time later. The governor of Utah came out immediately talking about vowing to get to the bottom of this tragic event. Charlie Kirk...
By the way, the reason why I was pulling up Google Earth is because there seems to be varied elevations of this building. I made this map the other night. So you can see that this building here is a little bit in the way. Morning. Oof, I can't type. Yeah, apparently they caught pictures of him they released. Yeah.
The map Lebanon is...
Take a look at it.
Was a conservative activist. He brought in a large portion of the younger generation into the party. I want to show you a clip now, let you listen. This is from the 2024 Republican National Convention.
To all the Gen Zers watching this convention on TikTok right now, I have a message just for you. You don't have to stay poor. You don't have to accept being worse off than your parents. You don't have to feel aimless and unhappy. You don't have to support leaders who lied to you and took advantage of you for your vote. America's future is a series of choices.
They recovered the suspected firearm used in the shooting. We have good video of it. We're not going to release it at this time. I'm pretty darn quiet. Mic check 1 2, chickadee check 1 2. Sorry, I moved my microphone. Is it still quiet? Right on. Oh, live. FBI releases photos of person of interest in shooting.
Oftentimes, some people will do it out of spite, some people will do it just for fun, and some people obviously have some ill intent in those threats. So for law enforcement, the tough thing is that you have to balance all that, and you have to basically side with caution. And that is why lockdowns and thorough inspections of the facilities and locations were affected by these threats. They have to take them all serious. But while they're doing that, that means resources are being pulled from other areas, meaning someone is likely to be affected by those threats regardless.
All right, so well, former police chief Orlando Rolone, really appreciate.
I don't think anyone would put it past Israel to have intelligence like Mossad try to reopen the wounds of division in our country. Sabrina Salvati's take was absolutely, it blew my mind. She talked about it from like a black perspective. She talked about how the sheer ballistics of the trajectory of the bullet or whatever had to be from a professional hit. And here, let's just watch it. Sabby.
Appreciate you joining us here on
Thank you.
Live.
If you don't watch Sabby Sabs, you should. Yep, this is it.
It is the morning of September 11th. By the time you see this, it'll be around noon of September 11th. And it is the day after conservative commentator Charlie Kirk has been killed in Utah. I have seen a lot of people cover this, and I think that there is one question that people are not asking, and I think we really need to focus on the why now. We are going to break this up into 3 different parts. First, we're going to begin with what exactly happened. The media was kind of all over the place yesterday, multiple different stories, a guy that was arrested that was not the shooter, but they told people he was the shooter. As of right now, the shooter has still not been captured. And I think that that speaks volumes. I believe that this was a professional hit. I do not believe that some rando just woke up one day and said, yeah, I think I'm going to try to, do this today. I believe that this is something that was planned. And there's more to this story, in my opinion, than some are saying. You need to ask the question, why now? Why now? And I'm going to get into different feelings. We're going to talk about what happened. We're going to get a little bit of my analysis here, what I think is really.
So here is my counterpoint to this, though, although I feel like her theory is equally valid and she has immense evidence to back up her claims. Given that we have this photo of this young man now, what it looks like, I'm starting to lean more towards the Groyper War narrative, and that your average person in Utah might be more than a novice with a firearm.
Going on. And then at the end, I'm going to tell people what to expect going forward. Because I think a lot of people are not looking at this for what it really is. We're going to talk about the bigger picture.
I saw tweets of college students lamenting the fact that Charlie was coming to their school, And the shooter would have had to have a good understanding of the layout of the university. But the IDF are also kind of known for their snipers. So
let's go ahead and get into it. Yesterday, Charlie Kirk was giving an event in Utah at a college. So this is something that Charlie Kirk does. He tours the country, goes to different colleges to give talks. From what I understand, from what I saw from the video, which I'm not going to show, obviously, but from what I saw from the video, before he was shot, he was talking about gangs. He was talking about killings from transgender people, etc. You know how this goes. But is that the reason why Charlie Kirk was killed? Let's get into this news segment here. It was breaking news at the time. This is ABC News.
In the air because ABC News has now confirmed that conservative activist and podcaster Charlie Kirk has been shot during an event at Utah Valley University. President Trump is now weighing in. Let's take it straight to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursi, that's been following this since the news broke. Aaron, what is the president saying?
The president is calling Charlie Kirk a great guy and saying everyone must pray for him after a shot rang out as he was speaking at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. His presence on that campus had divided it, but he was speaking at an event at an outdoor courtyard when the university says a shot rang out and the entire place emptied out. People went running. Charlie Kirk's condition is not immediately clear. We are still waiting for confirmation on his condition.
Let's pause here. At that time, he was still alive. And again, like I said, I'm not showing that shooting video on here, but basically to make a
Mic check 1 2.
long story short, from what I saw, he was shot in the neck. This was a
I appreciate
professional
you.
hit.
I appreciate you working with me through this. I'm still pretty new to streaming. I'm still in my first couple of years, and I'm using a snowball mic. It's like $60. Okay, yeah, I doubled the gain. Let's go.
I don't care what anybody says. And not only was he shot in the neck, but he was shot in the neck in a spot that, from what I understand after talking to people that have worked in the medical profession, he was already done for. There are certain areas in the neck where someone can be hit, where if you're hit there, by the time you get to the hospital, it's probably already too late. So this is someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Now, I don't know if this is someone who had military training, but it's very clear to me that this is someone who had some type of training. They knew where to hit. They knew exactly, how to hit that area. And we'll get into where this person, may have been positioned. We have videos about that as well as pictures. But this is not just a wake up and try to see how this goes job. This is something that was planned. I honestly feel like this is someone that had professional training that did shoot Charlie Kirk here. This was an outdoor event.
Utah Valley University said a suspect is in custody. We know nothing about that suspect or whether it's the actual shooter. A number of federal officials are now racing to the scene. Orem, Utah has a very small police department, Kira. It shares it with 2 other nearby communities, so the feds are going to be deeply involved and on their way now as everyone from the president on down in the administration asks the nation to pray for Charlie Kirk, who commonly goes out to college campuses to drum up support for President Trump's agenda and was deeply involved in helping to get the president elected. And now the president is asking the nation for its prayers for Charlie Kirk, who was shot on the campus of Utah Valley University. Kira.
Okay, the suspect that was captured at that point in time was not the shooter. It was an elderly man, an elderly white guy who, for whatever reason, was also on camera saying, asking people to shoot himself.
And his pants were falling down as they were dragging him away, saying like, "I have the right to remain silent." Like that. What?
It was really weird. I don't know who this guy is, but later on it was announced that that was actually not the shooter. Some people were wondering, and I wondered this myself, if that was actually a distraction, if that was a decoy, because the shooter did get away. So just to clear that up, that was not the shooter. Again, we still don't know who the shooter is.
All right, Aaron, I'm being told that we actually have video now of the moment that Charlie Kirk was shot, and I believe we are going to be able to hear some of the audio as well.
That, and did you happen to see on that there were other people on the rooftops?
We are not going to play that. Let's go ahead and fast forward to that. I don't show that stuff on here, but we'll jump back in at this part.
The security detail, Utah Valley University said a suspect was taken into custody. We don't know if that is indeed the suspected shooter, someone else who may be associated with this or what. It was not specified, and we got no word of anyone else who may have been hit or injured as a result. The campus police are investigating, and as you've heard here, the FBI and other federal agencies are on the way.
That's what it looks like.
So yeah, that person was not the shooter. As I said, the media, they really messed around with the story yesterday. At one point, there were reports saying that it's probably someone that shot their gun off in the crowd in an air of excitement. No. This was a direct hit. It was not, oh, I'm just gonna, say, woo, I'm excited.
And if it was Mossad, do you think that they would just leave it up to one guy,
to be here? No, that was not the case. It's also very interesting that this happened in Utah, of all places. For the most part, Utah is a red state, is a conservative state. It just goes to show you, and they don't have a high crime rate, but it goes to show you that this could happen anywhere, right? It could happen anywhere. One more clip I want to show you from the media. This was from MSNBC News. This gentleman has now been fired after making this comment.
Talk to me about the environment in which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, emphasize what you just emphasized. We don't know any of the full details of this. We don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up.
First of all, dumbest take ever. Someone shooting their gun off in celebration. Please pretend. Let's all pretend like you did not just say that. And it's like, dude, what he's about to say is like TOS.
What was just said, he's been one of the most divisive especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
Yeah, and I think she was trying to cut him off there. So from what I understand, he has now been fired. Let's go ahead and dive into what he said here about the divisiveness. First and foremost, what people have to understand, and I've talked to many commentators about this yesterday, what people have to understand is this.
There's like a kernel of truth in there, that he's using fighting words, you know? He was literally trying to incite a race war on Twitter when that Ukrainian woman was stabbed. She talks
Even some
about
of the
that.
black conservative commentators, and I saw some of their videos as well, I watched the videos on both sides, were not fond of the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk had. I saw this yesterday. The divisiveness. I think we got to send a message out really quick here. First of all, I'm 100% pro free speech. People can say what they want. I don't have to agree with it. I'm not one of those people that says, oh, I'm pro free speech, but I don't want you to say this, and that. That is not who I am.
You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. I think it's worth some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. Charlie Kirk. The thoughts and prayers thing ring so hollow now more than ever, dude. Like, God didn't stop this bullet. I just, I don't want to get into how people grapple with the problem of evil, but it's Chris Raygun did just tweet. All he tweeted was thoughts and prayers, period.
But I will say this. You know, you people, you can't expect, in particular for black people, you really cannot expect black people to be sad in this moment, especially those that are not black conservatives, even though some black conservatives are offering, you know, their condolences and say they are mourning his loss. But the reality is the majority of black people are not. Charlie Kirk, over the years, has said very racist, anti-black things about the black community. He made some comments not too long ago on Jubilee about slavery that was very, 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 very racist, anti-black. He was the one that was going forward saying that he didn't want a black woman pilot. That's mild compared to some of the other things that he said. And then more recently, the killing of the Ukrainian woman, she was killed by a black guy. Charlie Kirk was online, basically trying to find a way to incite some type of a race war among the people. We need to take back, we need to fight back, and get these people out of here, etc. Like that type of rhetoric. The rhetoric about black people, black gangs, and all those types of things. Charlie Kirk has for years said racist, anti-black comments. And I say this to say, you cannot expect the majority of the black populace at this point in time to mourn Charlie Kirk. That is a message to go out there for everybody. You cannot expect that. He made it very clear that we are not a group that he had any respect in. And I say as a group, not as individuals, right? So of course, you know, I'm sure he still likes, like, you know, some of the black conservative commentators, right? But as a community, he had a lot of negative, vile, racist things to say.
You know, we won't celebrate, but we don't have to mourn. 100%.
Say about black people as a community. So you can't expect black people as a community to mourn the death of Charlie Kirk. And that may be hard for some people to hear, but that is the reality. This is why you are seeing people online, on social media. This is why they are saying, I wouldn't say this, but they are saying like good riddance and all this type of stuff. I have been talking to people yesterday saying, don't celebrate this. Like, that's not the way to go about it. This is actually not a win. I'm going to get into that a little bit more to tell you what I think is going to happen from here.
No, like Bad Empanada said, this is very bad. And that was kind of my first thought, you know. I kind of thought that maybe it's just because I'm seeing a person get shot that I'm feeling this, like, existential dread from seeing him actually get shot. But this is a beloved figure on the right. And Trump has weaponized the military against his own people for less. That's why it's so bad.
But he has said those things for years. What people are not asking is why now? Why was Charlie Kirk, why was this attack on Charlie Kirk's
Welcome
life?
to the stream.
Why did that happen now? Charlie Kirk has been saying vile racist things for years. Because I'm going to show you what I believe is really going on here. I don't think that's why Charlie Kirk was killed. I really don't. Like I said, I think this was a professional hit, and I think that people are looking at this the wrong way. But you can't expect that, guys. And I see people saying that he was a father and, you know, he had a family. But these are the same things that many of us in the black community said about Philando Castile, who was also a father, who had a family. These are some of the things we said about George Floyd, who was also a father. And Charlie Kirk is one of the people who seem to make it his mission to, for whatever reason, still to this day, he was like, well, not till this day because he's no longer alive, but he continued to just blast like George Floyd as a person, he's a criminal, da-da-da-da, all those types of things, where many of us in the black community were saying, that's still a person. He still was a human being, right? Like, yes, he showed a counterfeit bill or whatever, but he was still a human being. He still had kids. He still had a family. We were saying those things back then, and Charlie Kirk didn't want to hear it. So you cannot expect the black community to rally behind the death of Charlie Kirk right now. You can't expect it. So that's the first thing that I want to say. For people who are saying, I can't believe people are being this way, why are you surprised? He had no sympathy, no empathy for Philando Castile, for George Floyd, for George Floyd's family. No sympathy, no empathy. I sat
No, he hates the word empathy. He thinks it's a made-up new age term.
there and I watched a police officer have his neck on George Floyd, his knee on George Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes. And the excuses that we heard from people like Charlie Kirk was, oh, well, he was a criminal. He showed.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, in Trump's video statement, he basically said he will go after any leftist organizations. Sorry, I can't type. And this keyboard sucks. You're good. Message received. I knew what you meant. This is 40 minutes, but every single second of this is fire. I'm gonna grab another tea real quick and I'll be right back. I've seen this whole thing, but I'll watch it again and again. This is, I mean, she makes some really strong cases for the intelligence as the culprit, at being Mossad or some kind of a deep state actor.
Oh, the counterfeit bill, those types of things. You know, as I said, like he was still.
Baden Banata literally said that this could be utilized as like a Reichstag fire moment, you know? Like, sorry, Constitution suspended. Military in every city.
A person.
Every capital.
Still a person. So.
I'll be right back.
Why now? Why now? Why is this happening all of a sudden? Why is this happening all of a sudden? This is the question a lot of people are not asking. And just like clockwork, they have managed to find a way to put the left and the right against each other one more time. When we were coming together on certain issues, you see, I want people to look at the big story. We were at a moment in this country where people on the left and some on the right were coming together for an anti-war coalition, anti-war movement saying stop the wars. We had people on the left and some people on the right that were coming together to say, you know what, we're getting tired of Israel. We don't want our money going to Israel. You even had right politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey speaking up and saying, no, we don't want the money to go to Israel. So we actually had a moment in this country where the left and the right were coming together on anti-war and against Israel. So when I say ask yourself that question, why now?
Yeah, grab a drink, grab a snack, post up for the long haul. I got it at 1.5 speed because it's a 40-minute video, but yeah, this is badass.
Why is it that all of a sudden now, Charlie Kirk...
Tea has been my go-to because, like, ever since I got sober, Arizona tea specifically. Got the Arnold Palmies, at this time. Non-alcoholic beer is also good. Like there's some good like Athletic IPA, Heineken Zero are both really solid non-alcoholic beer, but you can't buy non-alcoholic beer with EBT. That's the difference. Even if it's just like 0.2%, you know? The fuck it is.
I want you to look at the bigger picture. And you can already see, it's already starting. Here we are with Fox News. It's already starting, folks. People are pointing fingers at each other. The right is blaming the left is blaming the right. Listen to this.
So this hits differently because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it.
Nobody has... Trump didn't mention Melissa Hortman. This fucking stooge isn't gonna mention Melissa Hortman. So what gives, you know?
Police got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us.
Does everybody see what is happening now? This is exactly what I said would happen. You had this coalition that was starting to form, and I thought was really had a chance of taking off, and now we are right back where we were before. The left is after us. People on the left are like, the right is after us. So now there's this split again. Because as long as they can keep you hating each other, as long as you're on the left and they can make you hate people on the right, as long as you're on the right and they can make you hate people on the left, we will never really get anywhere in this country when it comes.
We had Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is she... What's her reaction? I never thought I'd be saying that. There's the photo. Photos. A married young man and a father who stands on college campuses. Encourages young people to get married, have children, stop abortion, and simply live a life for God. I'm praying that he survives. I'm praying that... Oh, wow, that is an old tweet. She apparently has not had much to say. Alright.
Comes to fighting against the establishment, the elites, the billionaires. And that's what a lot of this comes down to. And that includes Israel as well. Doesn't everybody see what's really happening here? Doesn't everybody see what is real, what this is really all about? They have found a way to turn these groups against each other once again. Once again. You think Benjamin Netanyahu and his flack in the Likud party, you think they don't see what's happening here in American politics? You think they don't see that people on the left and people on the right don't want to be bothered with Israel anymore, want a genocide to stop? You think they don't see us calling out the fact that Israel should be a foreign agent, that we don't want to be beholden to Israel? They know exactly what's going on. And if they know what's going on, intelligence sees what's going on. And if intelligence sees that, of course the billionaires see this as well. So I say this and I say this to say, again, you cannot expect the black community to have this type of sympathy, this type of empathy for Charlie Kirk because of the things that he has said about the black community. Does that mean that someone should be killed because of what they say? No. And for people who say that they're pro-free speech, you need to think about that for a second. Saying something and doing something are two different things. I believe that people have the right to say what they want. Do I believe they should be killed because they say it? No. That's why I asked the question again. Why now? So you see the division here, it's already starting. They're saying on Fox News, they said the left, they're after us, they're coming after us. Then it goes on to Donald Trump. He comes in and says the same thing. Everybody see the playbook here?
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly...
If it was American intelligence that murdered Charlie Kirk, holy shit, that makes this video so creepy. Just saying.
Responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. For years, those on the radical...
I don't know why that video is fuzzy like that, but you guys get the point. The point is this, folks. Does everybody see what's happening? And here we go with what is to come next. Donald Trump just told you so himself. Right, going after organizations. What do you think that means? You don't think that Benjamin Netanyahu, which he is, you don't think he's not out here taunting around like he said, well, Charlie Kirk was pro-Israel. You guys don't see what this is really about, what's really happening now? This means going forward, you are going to see an increase in surveillance. Oh, how convenient, considering Palantir is all the buzz as of recent. This is going to cause an increase in the police state. This is going to cause...
There was a crazy increase of the police state after 9/11 as well.
A crackdown on protests or any other type of, and I'll go as far as to say this, the anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian type of movement. What do you think is going to happen from here? When he says he's going to go after organizations, think about all the organizations that participate in these protests. What do you guys think is coming? Now, Donald Trump has sent in the National Guard to D.C., talking about sending them to Chicago, and then later Baltimore. Is Donald Trump going to send in the National Guard to Utah after what just happened? Probably not. This is all political. And this is exactly what the establishment wants. They want us to be divided politically. We were starting to come together in some way, shape, or form when it came to war, when it came to Israel, and now they have found a way to separate us once again. So I see a lot of people cheering this on, applauding this. I say the same thing that I said back then with George Floyd and all the rest of them. No, you should not be applauding this. People can say what they want to say. Yes, I get it. There are consequences that come with that, but people shouldn't be killed because of what they say. And I want you to think about what this means for political commentators as well, and for you. What happened to Charlie Kirk can happen to any one of us. Right now, they want you to believe that this doesn't happen to people on the left. This is a lie. Many of us on the...
Yeah, it is an extremely prudent point that this is also the death of any semblance of solidarity in a bipartisan sense.
On the left have received death threats, and not just recently, but over the years. You don't have to like who Charlie Kirk was, but next time it could be somebody else. Next time it could be someone that you do like. It could be any one of us that do political commentary. Any one of us. It could be you. And I don't think people are seeing this for what this really is. I don't think they're looking at the big picture. I think that people are focusing on, he said these things, he said that thing, so I don't really care what happens to him. But what I'm here to tell you is that is exactly what the establishment wants. They're sitting in their rooms right now smoking cigars. They're happy. They're happy. They said, look, just like that, we got them to turn their focus off of what was happening with these wars in the military and Israel. We have separated them once again and got them to bigger at each other. And that is another reason why I really believe this was a professional hit. I believe this has intel all over it. I really do. You can see from this picture here.
Stream. They're the other people. This is what I'm talking about. If this was an intelligence operation, they wouldn't just send one guy to do this. On the roof behind him. So Charlie is also flanked. He's essentially surrounded by people on rooftops. Like, what the fuck are these people doing up here? Are they photographers? Surely the people in the crowd would have looked at them oddly, right? Or maybe they just popped up from hiding spots? I don't know.
This is the closest I think we've been able to see. The shooter was on the roof. Here's an image here. And then here's another image here on the roof.
That's a different rooftop.
And then here's, I don't know who these people are, but there were people on the roof of the building.
So this is behind him. Yeah, that's very odd. What's up, Wismaro? Welcome to the stream. Doing alright. Can't complain.
People on the roof of the building. People have been asking me, what about security, etc. This was an outdoor campus event. And as someone that's worked at the universities for a long time, a lot of times the outdoor campus events, there may be like one security guard, like right at the entrance to check to make sure that people who are supposed to attend that event are the ones that are coming in. But for the most part, the outdoor events, it's not so much like that. For example, when I was at MIT, when I worked at MIT, Matt Damon was one of the commencement speakers one of the years that I worked there. And he was walking around like the halls of MIT with...
What do I think of it? I think it's a horrific death of any semblance of solidarity in a bipartisan sense. I mean, if you look at the American population as like a tribe, I mean, despite the disagreements among the tribe, a member getting murked in mysterious circumstances is upsetting to all. True, I wasn't a fan of him, but that's just a shame. Like, and Trump has weaponized the military against his fellow Americans for far less. True, I wasn't a fan of him, but that's just a shame. Yeah, I was saying earlier that I had this feeling of existential dread watching him get shot, and it wasn't that feeling of like you're like watching a war video or something like that and someone gets shot. No, this is like
one security guard.
horrific.
But once he was outside, like that was it. That was it. So people have been asking me about that, and I just wanted to give you my experience of that. And we can even see here from this.
But I don't have compassion for him as a person. I don't mourn his death, as many people do not. But this is not what this country needs right now.
Picture. This is a video actually where they try to point out the shooter. Right there. Right there. Running on the roof. So does this seem familiar to you? Doesn't this kind of remind you of the Trump rally where the shooter was on the roof? And then you have Benjamin Netanyahu coming in here. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted...
Okay, I remember Sabi kind of going a little on the conspiracy angle with the... Dude, the Trump shooting is even more of a mindfuck because there's even fewer details, and that suspect just seemed, I don't know, odd. It was probably just crooks acting alone, but yeah, the only similarity I see between the two is just that there was a guy laying prone with a rifle. That's literally the only, yeah.
Friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited...
It's wild that we came to such a point in society that it's already a danger for express their opinion for the right and left community. There's been a rise in political violence, but not all political violence is treated equal. Apparently, all of these lists that right-wingers have made about of all the political hits and stuff, they never mention Melissa Hortman. They mention Steve Scalise, which happened in 2017. Vance Bolter murdered Melissa Hortman and her husband in their home. And this makes the separation even deeper. If you can rise above the chatter of little shitters like Nick Fuentes, if you can rise above that and recognize that violence is not going to break our arms locked together in solidarity, we'll stay strong. And I believe it's possible. But that's just me.
Invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. First of all, how does Benjamin Netanyahu know why Charlie Kirk was killed? How does he know why he was killed? The shooter has not been captured. Still,
Seems like he's trying to create a narrative.
how does he know the reason why Charlie Kirk was killed? I found it very strange yesterday that a lot of Israeli politicians were very quick to tweet after he was shot, and then again after he was killed. And I bring that up because of this.
It's very interesting that you say that. I think through Charlie's death, Nick Fuentes will gain even more supporters. Sadly, though, this ongoing beef between Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk, and Utah having a lot of guns on the ground, where it's likely your average person could become proficient with a rifle, college age, and the photos are of a gangly white guy in an American flag t-shirt. I like Sabby's theory, and I think it holds weight. Although I think Netanyahu might just be an opportunist and is just trying to capitalize on his death as saying that, oh, he was a supporter of Israel. I don't know about that. And Sabrina's about to get into that.
Just recently, Charlie Kirk was on
Welcome
Megyn
to
Kelly's
stream if you're
show.
just joining,
Go ahead and put
or
this
if
up
I
here.
didn't say so
He was
earlier.
on Megyn Kelly's
Sorry.
show talking about Israel. Listen to this.
Sudden, like I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. But it goes to the point where, if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government about backlash than actual Israelis do. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megan? That's not right.
You hear that? He was starting to question, it seems like to me. There's another one here. This was very
Alright, see you soon, Pillow Crafter.
recent. Listen to what he said to Ben Shapiro about Israel.
Charlie, we push back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border. So like, maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does...
You get the point. He was starting to question Israel. He was starting to ask questions. I don't know. This whole Israel thing is starting to be a little bit weird for me, even when it came to Epstein and Israel and Epstein being Mossad.
Lies that Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. The sweatpants and the Harvard jacket, the kind of disheveled hair, looking as if he was so smart and above the clouds that he was doing advanced mathematical equations on the back of napkins. But if you actually go into some of the videos of people that met with Epstein at the time, they said he was awfully unimpressive when it came to finance and markets and economics. And it's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible. Easy, not hard. And this is no longer just speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, Saudi intelligence, or maybe he was just a hired gun. Maybe he was just a guy that countries would go to and park a couple $100 million and say, hey, can you get one of the members of the royal family with a 13-year-old so we can get them to do what we want to do? Members of Congress are actively being blackmailed. The Epstein playbook is being used on a daily basis.
Charlie Kirk was starting to ask questions about Israel. And this gentleman here, which this tweet really went viral, his name is Harrison Smith. I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. Okay, so here he is right here explaining himself.
Viral from last month. It's now the #1 tweet on anything Benjamin Netanyahu is posting. So,
but alternatively, I will say that I think Israel doesn't care about their image anymore. I think the gloves are fully off. I think they want to expand into a greater Israel project, or no dice, you know? There's this professor that has been doing these great lectures on YouTube talking about how, like, Israel wants to bring about the end times by going to war with the entire world, like people having popular protests to unite against Israel for a free Palestine is like exactly what Israel wants. And they'll keep doing it as long as America is picking up the tab.
Thanks, guys. Really glad I'm on his radar now. That's cool. But it's true. I mean, I don't really have too much to add to it, honestly. I'm not going to say who it was that told me because they asked me not to, kind of for obvious reasons. So if they want to go public, they're more than welcome to. I don't have much to add to it other than basically like a month ago, I watched an interview with Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk, and I thought they looked scared, and I commented on that, made a video out of it. And then like a day or so later, I was talking to this person, and the way I remember the conversation going was that we were just talking about sort of Israel and Zionism and Zionist influencers, and Charlie Kirk came up, and I remember the other person saying to me, well, you know, Charlie Kirk says he's afraid to go against Israel because he thinks they might kill him. And I said, that's crazy, because I just made that video about how Charlie Kirk seems scared. That's crazy that you're saying that.
Does everybody, like, guys, just connect the dots. Does everybody see what's really happening here? So people say, well, Israel would go after someone on the left, not someone on the right. To me, that seems a little too obvious. Because Charlie Kirk was still pro-Israel, but he was starting to question it. And he wasn't questioning it in private, he was questioning it on his show. Now, as of right now, still, the shooter, still right now, we don't know who the shooter is. And you have people, commentators that are saying, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. We don't know who the shooter is. But based on the video that I saw, and the fact that as of right now, the shooter still has not been captured, I point towards intelligence. And I would not be surprised if there was some involvement here from Israel. It doesn't mean that it was, an Israeli that did this. But I would not put it past. Guys, we had Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., JFK, RFK killed in this country. Are people forgetting what country this is? When people sit up there and they say that, people are saying it now, this is not who America is. This is not who we are as a country. We're not a violent country. America is a violent country. Let's stop pretending that we're something that we're not. Right after Charlie Kirk was shot, there was another mass shooting. Right after. We were just talking about a shooting that happened at a Catholic school just a week or so ago. Stop saying that. This is exactly who America is. But the fact that people aren't putting the pieces together, use your minds, use your brains, put the pieces together. They came at, like all these people that have been killed in this country by intel. And people say, well, they wouldn't do that to Charlie Kirk. They could do it to anybody. Anybody that they see no longer fits their bottom line. He was starting to question it. He was starting to question Israel. And that's why I believe that intel was all behind this. And there's a new update here about the shooter from Brian Allen here. It says, breaking, FBI now investigating possible foreign intelligence links to Charlie Kirk's assassin. This just went from domestic tragedy to international chessboard. Multiple leads suggest the shooter may have been tied directly or indirectly to foreign intel networks. Now, this was published after I pretty much came to this conclusion on my own, which I was like, this could be intel.
Whoa, wait a second. FBI now investigating possible foreign intelligence links into Charlie Kirk's assassin. This went from domestic tragedy to international chessboard. Multiple leads says this shooter may have been tied directly or indirectly to foreign intel networks. Let that sink in. A U.S. political figure was assassinated on American soil, and there's now suspicion of foreign coordination.
Now, this was published after I pretty much came to this conclusion on my own, which I was like, this could be intel. Again, the shooter has not been captured. I don't want to keep you guys all day, but I want to say this. What happened to Charlie Kirk can happen to, again, anybody and any political commentator. So think about that. There are a number of us that go to events that have, that speak at these events, that speak at rallies. Could happen to any one of us. At the same time, people do have to understand, and I cannot stress this enough, do have to understand, you cannot expect the black community to come out and mourn Charlie Kirk after the way that he has demonized and vilified the black community over the years. 3, the fact that he's been doing that over the years, people need to ask, why did this happen now? What has changed? 4, the change is he was starting to question Israel and did so publicly on his show. That's a problem for Israel. People were starting to talk about that there's a possibility that Charlie Kirk could run for president. Israel saw him as someone, yeah, this is a great ally of ours. We know we gotta believe in him. This is gonna be great. He started to
I literally saw that video of that guy crying in that parking lot, saying like, he would have been our next president, or he would have eventually been president, something like that. Wild. I'm hearing sounds outside. It sounds like thunder. Hang on.
You have the video from the gentleman telling you that Charlie Kirk believed that if he were to change his mind or turn on Israel, that they would kill him. Shows that there was some type of fear there. And then last but not least, the left and the right were starting to come together for some type of an anti-war coalition to push back against sending money to Israel, to push back against a genocide in Gaza, to push back against the U.S. being attached at the hip to Israel. And lo and behold, they found a way to break that up. These are the things that I want you to think about. We'll have to stay tuned to find out what other information is revealed, but it is very telling that they still have not found the shooter. Think about that. Hey guys, this was a savvy clip. If you like what you saw.
Absolute banger of a video. All right.
The FBI is now enlisting the public's help in identifying a person of interest.
Yeah, the agency's Salt Lake City unit put out this post asking for tips about the man you see in these photos, and now they're offering a reward of up to $100,000 for information that leads to an arrest. Let's talk about the release of these photos, because earlier this morning the FBI was saying they weren't going to release anything unless they felt they needed to.
I think there were two things in not releasing the photos earlier this morning. One, they truly wanted a vet to make sure that they had the right person that they're looking for, that they wanted to link the person in the photos to the person on top of the roof that they wanted to talk to. I think then they wanted to try to see if they could use their own resources to identify this person. Then they decided, okay, we're going to have to open up this to the public.
God, my fucking eardrums. Hey, if you don't have audio to put in your video, just don't put any fucking audio. Or at least don't make it like the fucking soundtrack to 300. Alright. I'm gonna move on from Charlie Kirk now. It's enough Charlie Kirk. I mean, I guess I'll button it up with Abad and Benata. He was not worth it. Practically all historians agree that the Reichstag fire was a real instance of individual terrorism undertaken without any consideration for its broader political utility. It turned out to be immensely useful for the Nazis. If you genuinely believe things can't get worse than they already are in the US, the very fact that you're today still able to freely post celebrating this by itself disproves that notion. You may be about to find out that you've seen nothing yet. Haunting words. But truer words have not been spoken, in my opinion. And then this, I'm variously seen dozens of you argue that Charlie Kirk was equivalent to Archduke Franz Ferdinand, Tsar Nicholas II, and Benjamin Netanyahu. I have banned everyone permanently, but Jesus fucking Christ, some of you legitimately think that online political creators are running the fucking world. Get a grip on reality. Charlie Kirk did TikTok propaganda and campus debates. He will be replaced by 500 more. No movement will be dead in the water as a result of his passing. No government coalition will fall. There will be no opportunity to seize in its midst. The only possible outcome of this is not in anyone's favor except the right. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said. The motive is kind of irrelevant to the consequences that have already taken a foothold. That State of the Nation address that Trump did, declaring war on organizations? What? Like, it's already started. But we're going to switch to Gaza because we'll just never abandon wanting to break the siege, freeing Palestine, because while we are still in turmoil here, people are dying every single day in Gaza. By the dozens. Oh my god, my eardrums again. I'll turn down my general audio. Okay.
Hello and welcome back to the Electronic Intifada's live stream for Thursday, September 11th. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleagues Ali Abunimah, John Elmer, Asa Winstanley, and Tamara Nassar. It's day 706 of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Coming up, we'll be joined by international human rights lawyer Craig Mokhiber to talk about the latest developments and why he thinks there is a way for the UN to step in, despite the American veto in the Security Council, and force Israel to halt the genocide. And as the UK's Labour government intensifies its crackdown on opposition to Israel's genocide, some are placing renewed hope in Jeremy Corbyn, who is launching a new left-wing party. But as Asa will discuss, there are worrying indications that Corbyn and his team have learned none of the lessons from the Israel lobby's bogus anti-Semitism campaign that destroyed Corbyn's leadership of the Labour Party. Later on in the program, John will bring us up to date on resistance operations from Gaza and the West Bank, as well as Yemeni drone and missile support operations. But first, let's take a look at the news. Here's a brief summary of some of the latest developments this week in Palestine.
I doubt she'll overlook the flotilla, but if she does, we'll look at all the updates released from various people who are on the boats.
Israel has killed at least 500 Palestinians and injured nearly 2,300 between September 3rd and September 10th, according to official records from the Ministry of Health in Gaza. On Wednesday, September 10th,
welcome.
At least 72 Palestinians were killed since dawn, including 53
Glad to have
in
you.
Gaza City alone. Israel has put the entirety of Gaza City under a forced displacement order as it bombs high-rise apartment and office towers, homes, and shelters, vaporizing dozens of buildings, one city block after another, with no end in sight.
Bolsonaro has just been convicted. Tomorrow we will find out how long he will be sentenced for. Wow. convicted on all charges. Wow. It's history. It's history. History being made. I will definitely look into that after the Resistance report. So that'll be... I won't watch all 2.5 hours of the live stream, but I definitely want to see that.
Our contributor Asim Annabi, the spokesperson for the Gaza municipality, posted this photo of one of the leaflets the Israelis dropped over Gaza City on September 8th. He writes that, quote, "As the sun rises, Israel drops leaflets on us, demanding that we leave Gaza City. I contemplate the leaflet and its poor language. I contemplate the details of the faces of my fellow workers and engineers, still preparing their equipment to begin work. I go out to the gate of the heavy machinery garage and contemplate the heavy footsteps of the people and their emaciated bodies. I return to my office, burdened with sadness and grief for Gaza, its people, and myself. I sit on a chair worn by war, dust, and worries, browsing the news and photos of my beloved, thousands of miles away. All that comes to my mind is that death is very close, closer than ever, and God is the source of help." Since Friday, September 5th, at least 7 high-rise towers have been obliterated by constant Israeli airstrikes. The Mushtaha Tower was destroyed on September 5th. Journalist Wissam Shabat filmed this clip, showing the moment Israeli warplanes targeted the high-rise.
So cowardly. Cowards.
The Al-Susi high-rise residential building was struck on September 6th. Instagram user Yazan Rah.
And I think the IDF tells people to evacuate the high-rises, and it's almost as if they want the Palestinians alive to witness the destruction. It's fucking grotesque.
Filmed this clip. On September 7th, the Al Roya commercial building was destroyed. Journalist Ahmed Ibrahim captured the explosion on camera. The 12-floor building housed the headquarters of the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, along with media offices, medical clinics, sports facilities, and other civilian offices and companies.
The Human Rights Office was in that building. Fucking haunting, bro. You know, I saw something where a smashed car was blurred, and it wasn't because there was like blood or a body or anything. It's just that sometimes when you see the destruction of things that you see in your everyday life, like cars and houses and infrastructure, seeing that destroyed in front of your eyes affects you. It has a psychological impact. Like driving through your home city like 10 years later and there's a bunch of abandoned buildings. Like there's something soul crushing about it. I mean, what a place of privilege for me to say that inanimate objects being obliterated is traumatizing. But still, like, this is intentional. They want the Palestinians to witness their erasure.
The HR said that their office on the top floor had been bombarded and extensively damaged.
Like a serial killer torturing, you know, someone in front of their spouse or something.
Since the start of the ongoing genocide. It was also raided by the Israeli army and used as a military base during its previous operations in Gaza City, rendering their offices inoperable. Their two other offices in Khan Yunis and Jabalia were completely destroyed last year, the group added. The Israeli army hit As-Salam Tower at night on September 8th. Journalist Faiz Koreka shot this video of the moment the building exploded.
Is it just me, or does it seem like
the spokesperson for Gaza's civil
the munitions were getting stronger and stronger each time?
defense stated on September 8th that the 5 buildings that had been destroyed until that point contained more than 200 apartments, with at least 20 people per unit, leaving more than 4,100 residents homeless in one night. Surrounding the towers, he says, were more than 350 tents, each sheltering families of around 10 people, which were also destroyed, displacing another.
If you follow this guy on X, this is all he does. Every single post is the same. It's just like, here is the list of atrocities that I have for you today that Israel has committed. He got my attention initially when he was like raging at the camera at the despicable state that some people had to retrieve their loved ones in. Like, retrieved them as bones. Because they couldn't retrieve the body for 40 days or something like that.
Another 3,500. In total, more than 550 families, some 7,600 people, have been stripped of shelter and basic necessities, forced into tragic and unbearable conditions. We continue to call on the world, he says, to take action to protect innocent people here in Gaza before it is too late. More massive apartment blocks were destroyed on September 9th, and on September 10th, Israel hit the Taiba Towers in western Gaza City. Instagram user Mohammed Hamouda filmed this clip. Euromed Human Rights Monitor stated
Fucking hell on earth, dude.
that the airstrike killed approximately 15 displaced Palestinians who had sought safety in and around the building. Civil defense worker Mohammed Komsan described the overwhelming terror of displaced families as Israel's wanton destruction of Gaza City has escalated.
One of these towers, as you can see. Hello everyone. Today in Gaza we're facing all kinds of forced displacement, not just a house or two. The occupation bombs massive residential towers that once sheltered hundreds of families. In seconds, their dreams and memories are gone. And when a tower collapses, one big question remains. Where are all these families supposed to go? Where is there a safe place left? Every day the space around us gets smaller. The occupation advances, pushing us tighter between the sea, the tanks, and the rubble. Displacement isn't just losing walls of your home. It's a deep psychological wound. Constant fear and anxiety, a scene of loss, and sometimes even feel like a stranger among your own people. This is our reality today, a reality where people are stripped of the simplest right, the right to have a place to sleep.
Mohammed Komsan of the Civil Defense in Gaza. The strike on the Al Roya commercial building on September 7th happened just days after the United States officially sanctioned the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, along with Al-Haq and Al-Mizan, the leading human rights organizations working on international criminal accountability for perpetrators.
What's happening in Gaza is devastating. Yeah, but just wait. We're gonna have the resistance report, and I think, yeah, my other viewers already left, I think. I don't know. But, we're not even to the resistance report. It's gonna be some catharsis, I think. You're gonna want to stick around for that.
Perpetrators of atrocity crimes in Palestine. In a joint statement on September 5th, the human rights groups said that, quote, threatened by the impact and role of our advocacy, legal research, and documentation in exposing Israel's ongoing international crimes, the United States has resorted to punishing individuals and organizations seeking to uphold the legal system upon which the international community was founded. The implications go beyond Palestine. By protecting Israel from accountability, they are dismantling the international legal order and undermining the possibility of justice for victims of grave crimes anywhere.
So this is a good portion, though, because she's literally just doing, like, title card reads and, like, summaries of all of the articles written by the Electronic Intifada in the last week. It's really good.
Israel also targeted a facility for people with disabilities in central Gaza City on September 7th. Journalist Ahmed Kahil captured the strike.
Just again and again, dude.
Kahil also documented Israel's attack on the Thawba Mosque that same day in the Al-Daraj neighborhood. He says that right after the attack on the mosque, the area was targeted a second time while he was filming. Quote, just now the place was bombed again, a totally random bombing, he says. A man on the street tells Kahil that the Israeli army called people and said they will strike again, and told them to evacuate this area as they are about to bomb it.
You're absolutely right, Senior. You're absolutely right, Senior.
هذا هو مشهد الدمار الذي حدث في المنطقة. الآن تم استهداف المكان مرة أخرى ونحن في المنطقة متواجدون. الآن تم استهداف المكان مرة أخرى. إيش اللي صار؟
They just called him saying they will strike again, and there are people on the street. They told him to evacuate the area as they are bombing it. They're just trying to corral people. Fuck.
That was from journalist Ahmed Kahil on September 7th. Palestinians in Gaza City say they are not leaving their city on Israel's orders. Journalist Nahed Hajjaj captured this clip of a man standing on a pile of rubble on September 10th, saying, quote, the army is striking high-rise buildings to force people to go south. I'm not leaving. If Netanyahu destroys everything, I'm not leaving. I will clean this up and live here once again. I'm not leaving. Even if I have to die here, I'm not leaving.
The occupation army is striking buildings.
I'm not leaving.
To force people to go south. I'm not leaving. Even if Netanyahu destroys, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I will clean up. I will clean this up and live here once again. No one is stronger than the Palestinian people, man. God damn, dude. I'm not leaving. You don't want to go south despite their threats? We can't even afford to go south? It's none of his business. I'm not leaving. Even if I have to die here, I'm not leaving. Netanyahu is the devil's shadow on the earth. Truly evil. His body is just a vessel for evil. It's insane. And how he just cutely lies so brazenly, dude. It's like he knows that we know that he's lying. That's all I get from his tone of voice.
Palestinians led a demonstration in Gaza City against Israel's genocidal displacement orders. Dr. Munir al-Bursh, the Director General of the Ministry of Health in Gaza, posted this photo of himself at the protest on Wednesday. He stated, quote, in a historic scene, community leaders, families, healthcare teams, and all the people of Gaza gathered in one of the largest demonstrations, carrying Palestinian flags and symbolic shrouds to declare a unified stance. Displacement from Gaza only towards the sky. Gaza tells the world, we will not leave except as martyrs. Here we were born, and here we remain. Meanwhile, a BBC investigation found that U.S. mercenary forces working security at the joint American-Israeli private Gaza Humanitarian Foundation killing sites masquerading as aid distribution points include members of a motorcycle gang with an extremist, right-wing, white Christian nationalist ideology.
Yeah, I heard this on Democracy Now! I think it was like earlier this week or late last week.
At least 10 members of the Infidels Motorcycle Club, who are working in Gaza for UG Solutions, a private contractor providing security at the GHF sites, have been identified by the British broadcaster, which revealed that 7 members of the gang are in senior security positions in Gaza. Quote, Infidels MC was set up by U.S. military veterans of the Iraq War in 2006, and members see themselves as modern crusaders, using the Crusader cross as their symbol, a reference to the medieval Christians who fought Muslims for control of Jerusalem, the BBC says. The gang is currently hosting anti-Muslim hate speech on its Facebook page and has previously held a pig roast in defiance of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The gang's leader, Johnny Taz Mulford, is a former sergeant in the U.S. Army who was punished for conspiracy to commit bribery, theft, and making false statements to military authorities. He is now the country team leader running UG Solutions' contract in Gaza. UG Solutions is paying each contractor nearly $1,000 per day, including expenses, rising to about $1,600.
Right again, senior. You just keep being right in here. Until USA withdraws report, Israel will continue. There's... That's what they said. They literally said that themselves. Like, we keep doing this because the world has not stopped us. And it won't happen unless Trump picks up that phone call.
$100 per day.
Picks up the phone and makes that call.
For team leaders at GHF's so-called safe distribution sites, documents seen by the BBC show. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have killed nearly 2,500 Palestinians and injured more than 17,000 at so-called aid sites since the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation began its operations in late May, according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza. Children and adults alike are continuing.
God, it's like almost a 9/11 of people who were killed trying to get aid. 1,400 people. I guess that's like half. It was like 2,000 or 3,000 who died in 9/11. I guess it's 9/11 today. We might as well look it up. Okay, yeah, 3,000.
Continuing to die of starvation across Gaza. The health ministry said that 5 deaths from starvation were reported between Tuesday and Wednesday, including a child, bringing the total recorded number of deaths from malnutrition to 404, including 141 children. The mother of 18-month-old Ali Abdul Nasser Abu Adra, who is hospitalized with extreme malnutrition at Nasser Medical Complex, says that her baby's weight has dropped to just 3 kilograms. He should weigh at least 10, and he is suffering from chronic diarrhea and dehydration. Journalist Mohammed Ashraf Salama captured this clip of the mother and her baby Ali earlier this week. She says that her son is so fragile that medical staff haven't been able to insert an intravenous cannula into his body for the past 10 days, and that he is in desperate need of treatments that are not available due to Israel's ongoing blockade. She adds that
I feel like sometimes I have to take breaks because I feel like I'm getting desensitized to the violence and everything, but I never get used to seeing the children like this, dude. Or in any harm's way, man. Like,
referral for medical evacuation was
it
issued
never
9
gets
months
any
ago
easier.
and was renewed last month, but the World Health Organization has not contacted her yet, nor have they provided her with any assistance. Malnourished patients at Nasser Medical Complex are dying, she warns. Quote, there is no treatment and no nutrition. Israel is continuing to attack and bomb medical facilities in Gaza. On September 7th, Israeli quadcopter drones attacked the Association for Women and Child Protection, a maternity care facility, killing a child and a
we have to bear witness to not look is its own form of complicity.
Pregnant woman seeking services and injuring
They
several.
don't die from war, children die
A man
from
was
hunger.
also killed. His own child found him in pieces. The man, identified as Ahmed Ashur Al-Ghul, was a staff member at the facility. He had asked his young son, Laith, to fetch his phone charger from his office nearby. As the boy walked back with the charger in hand, the Israeli...
Well, I mean, the malnourished children get me, personally, but it's different when you see an adult, you know, dead or injured. Like, the child doesn't even understand what's happening to them, you know? Like, it's so fucked up.
Israeli drone bombed the entrance to the clinic, with Laith finding his father's body and head torn to pieces in front of him, according to Al-Ghul's cousin, the novelist and activist Yusri Al-Ghul. Torn hands, the Israeli drone Laith to fetch his phone charger. Al-Ghul was a staff member at the facility. He had asked his young son, Laith, to fetch his phone charger from his office nearby. As the boy walked back with the charger in hand, the Israeli drone bombed the entrance to the clinic, with Laith finding his father's body and head torn to pieces in front of him, according to Al-Ghul's cousin, the novelist and activist Yusri Al-Ghul. Journalist Mahmoud Abu Salama reported from the scene following the drone strike, along with showing several people killed and wounded. His camera captures Laith staring at his father's body. Abu Salama says that another Israeli airstrike has just happened near the hospital. Quote, here is a violent Israeli airstrike targeting this place. A number of martyrs, as you can see. This is the scene, he says.
استهداف الآن بجوار مستشفى الوفا عدد من الشهداء والمصابين كما تشاهدون في هذه الغارة الإسرائيلية هنا في هذا المكان. هذه غارة أخرى أيضا بجوار المستشفى كما تشاهدون، طائرة لاستهداف بجوار مستشفى الوفا. هنا غارة إسرائيلية عنيفة استهدفت هذا المكان عددا من الشهداء كما تشاهدون. هذا هو المشهد، هذا هو المشهد لمنتظري الشهداء.
Turning quickly to the occupied West Bank, Israeli settlers stormed Masat al-Yatta.
God, bro. Holy shit. Fuck.
On September 5th, stabbing and assaulting the villagers of Khalat al-Daba. Sahat news agency reported that at least 13 Palestinians were wounded, including a 3-month-old baby, 2 elders, and women and children. On September 10th, armed settlers attacked the homes and properties of Palestinians south of Al-Khalil, according to Wafa news agency. A local resident said that settlers used tractors and drones to terrorize people and their livestock in the area. He added that settlers have been playing loud music at night in an attempt to instill fear among the local children. Israeli soldiers have been raiding towns and villages northwest of Jerusalem for days, following a suspected resistance operation by Palestinians earlier this week at the Ramot junction in occupied East Jerusalem, which killed 6 people and wounded 12. Local sources told Wafa news agency on Wednesday that Israeli forces stormed the town of Biddu amidst confrontations and fired live ammunition, tear gas, and sound bombs at Palestinians. They raided and searched several homes. The sources added that Israel launched a large-scale raid on homes in the towns of Katna and Al-Kubaiba, assaulting people, ransacking and searching their contents, and turning a home into a military barracks. They detained and interrogated citizens on the spot. Al Jazeera reported on September 9th that during the intensified raids, Israeli forces destroyed 3 other homes of Palestinian resistance operatives and a detainee accused of an earlier attack as punishment. Soldiers encircled the house of detainee Thabit Nasalma, accused of having carried out a shooting in December in the town of Beit Awa, southwest of Hebron, before blowing up the property with explosives. The raid sparked clashes with locals, during which Israeli soldiers fired live ammunition, wounding 2 people. Nasalma is accused of taking part in an attack that killed an Israeli settler and wounded 3 people. The demolition left the detainee's wife, parents, and 3 children homeless in the town of Aqaba, north of Tubas. Israeli forces also demolished the homes of 2 prominent local leaders of the Qassam Brigades, the armed wing of Hamas, who had been killed in Israeli operations, Al Jazeera reported. We've published many features on the electronic intifada in the last week, but we wanted to highlight there is nowhere left.
That's the first time I've heard of anyone from the Qassam Brigades being killed.
To go, we are trapped, by Malak Hijazi, writing from Gaza City. Malak writes, quote, before the announcement of a ceasefire in January 2025, I was among the 400,000 people who stayed in northern Gaza. The experience was overwhelming and unbearably hard. Israel did everything possible to force us southward. We endured severe bombardment, chessboard-like displacement, and famine for more than a year. But my family and I refused to leave. We knew the occupation could not force us to abandon the places where we were born, raised, and lived most of our lives. And we knew that if we left northern Gaza, the occupation would take over our land. The morning of September 9th, after a night of relentless shelling that shook both the walls and our nerves, I woke to the news that the Israeli army had ordered 900,000 people in Gaza City to move southward to what they call a humanitarian zone. The warning came shortly after Netanyahu declared, quote, in the past 2 days, 50 of these towers have fallen. The Air Force brought them down. Now all of this is just an introduction, just a prelude to the main intense operation, a ground maneuver of our forces who are now organizing and gathering in Gaza City. On the maps, the entire area was marked in red, a color that now signifies danger and death. Netanyahu calls these attacks a prelude, while for us, life has been a continuous hell. The Israeli F-16s and helicopters are intensifying their bombing of the city while quadcopter drones hover above. Sometimes they drop leaflets with evacuation orders. Other times they release small bombs directly over our heads and homes. They have broadcast insults that I have personally heard, calling us cows and dogs, or shout, stay tuned, we will invade Gaza City soon. In recent days, Israel has destroyed several prominent buildings in Gaza, including Al-Susi and Al-Roya towers, landmarks that once anchored neighborhoods and gave the city a sense of structure, identity, and even a hint of modernity. The families who had lived in them were suddenly homeless. These buildings had also been surrounded by dozens of tents, families living in their shadow after losing their homes. When the towers fell, the rubble crushed the spaces where the tents had been, and the displaced were displaced again, their shelters rendered uninhabitable. This is not a battle. Each armored vehicle carries enough explosive to obliterate everything within 100 meters, including homes, streets, and all that lies between. The tanks roam the streets like mechanized predators, forcing entire neighborhoods to flee in panic. My family and I have searched death.
They're those robot drone trucks that aren't used because of their weak armor, but they're willing to load them up with explosives and remote control them to detonate.
Desperately for an apartment farther south in the Strip. Khan Yunis and Rafah have already been pulverized, reduced to ruins. We cannot survive winter in a tent. We have called every number, begged friends, searched endlessly. There is nowhere left in Gaza to absorb us. Many people will not leave, not because they want to risk their lives, but because of the numb indifference that follows witnessing genocide. Death has become, for many, the easier and more affordable option. For us, there is no longer even the illusion of choice. The walls are closing in, and we ask not only where we can go, but whether there will be any place left at all. Those are excerpts from There Is Nowhere Left to Go, We Are Trapped by Malak Hijazi, a writer in Gaza, on electronicintifada.net. And now, as we always do, we wanted to highlight people expressing joy, determination, and resilience across Gaza. Ahmed Mouin Abu Amsha, a music teacher and someone we frequently feature in this section, documented his own perilous forced displacement this past week. But in setting up his tent shelter near the beach, he found a new parachute to protect the kids from the sun, which he said he will put above the tents and the activity spaces he and his colleagues have established for music classes. He captioned this clip, quote, "We played with it under the strong wind. It was pulling us, and the children's laughter filled the air. Later, we set it up as a safe shade above the tents. Even though preparing the new space took so much time and effort, we do our best to create a place of joy and hope for the children."
Hello everyone. Today we have a parachute. I'm gonna put it above my tents and for the activity to cover the kids from the sun.
And Instagram user Mohamed Abu Kamar, who regularly posts videos singing with friends and children on the beach, sang a song for the Gaza-bound international flotilla, which is aiming to break the siege on Gaza with dozens of boats this week.
من شاطئ بحر غزة بنستنى فصول الحرية. فصول الحرية بالجو القوية بالفحم القضية. غزة بنستناكم ندعي ربي معاكم يحفظكم من الأذية. غزة بنستناكم.
And that's it for the news roundup. As always, go to electronicintifada.net for much more, especially to read our new features by our brave writers in Gaza. You're watching the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleague Ali Abunimah. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Nora. It's good to see you.
You are watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada. I am John Elmer. This is the Resistance Report for day 706 of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza. I am reporting this on September the 11th. We're going to start with the maps. As always, I've got a migration map here. Switch it up from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs map. This is a map from the migration cluster that shows, you're looking at a map on the screen with I don't know, what is it, dozens of arrows showing all of the neighborhoods in Gaza City, wider Gaza City, and Jabalia as well. This map already assumes the ethnic cleansing of Beit Lahia in the northwest there, Beit Hanun in the northeast, and also around the buffer zone all the way down to the south, where we know that Rafah has been completely ethnically cleansed. We learned today that the 36th Division of the IDF has pulled out of Khan Yunis, so that marking on the map showing Khan Yunis being taken over. Again, they pulled troops from there. They've left a shadow force in Khan Yunis. We know from my reporting last week and leaks within the Israeli military to the Israeli media that they believed that Gideon's chariots, the operation that we watched carry on from the middle of May until the late summer, was a failure. It failed to accomplish its goals, but it did accomplish the genocidal goals of destroying entire villages in the Khan Yunis area. And what we're looking at here is the number of people leaving Gaza City. And this is a number that's being tracked by the International Organization for Migration. This is an UNRWA. This is a site cluster of a number of organizations, the Norwegian and Danish refugee councils. And they show on this map that since August the 14th, 97,000 people have left Gaza City. The Israeli military today, I mean, they're updating this number every day, the Israeli military, because they want to make it seem like everybody has left Gaza City. But as Nora reported in the newscast, there's a lot of people that are not going to leave Gaza City. They didn't leave Gaza City the first time when they were told to evacuate. People don't believe there's anywhere to go. It was difficult enough to push everyone out of Gaza City the first time when people had money and resources and gas in their cars. None of that exists now. The roads are destroyed. There's nowhere for their tents to go in the south. So it's a total genocidal disaster. And Israel's bragging about it this week. Netanyahu spoke before the Israeli Air Force and bragged about how they had knocked down 50 towers in the previous 48 hours. And he said to Gazans, get out of there. This is just the beginning. So again, this matches the genocidal plans that the Israelis have been speaking about since October 7th consistently, that they're going to turn Gaza City a city that's 5,000 years old, into Rafah, which is completely erased at this point. Israel's Air Force said this week that they bombed Gaza more than 360 airstrikes in recent days, and that's a separate category than naval bombardment, than artillery bombardment, than the quadcopters dropping grenades on tents and homes. It's a separate category from the M113 armored personnel carrier robot bombs that they're sending in that blow up, that are tanks packed with explosives that blow up entire housing blocks. And so they're bragging and they're putting these numbers down on the record for the genocide trials. And I include these maps for those trials. And if we look at the next map, there's another one, another fresh map. This is from the United Nations satellite agency, and you can see the tents along the waterfront in precarious places. And on the right side of the map, you're looking at blue dots, yellow dots, red dots all along the coast. These are all tent camps all along the coast that are in, this was noted for being in a flood risk zone. But I want to show this map just to show you what the coastline of Gaza City looks like. It's packed with tents all the way up and down. And this is what Israel is trying to push people out of. There's one more map of this that shows, number 3, that shows the coastline as well, just tents packed tight as far as you can see up and down the coastline. We take a look at the next map is the IDF's evacuation notice. Nora reported on similar leaflets that had been dropped on Gaza City. They're dropping them on individual neighborhoods. This one's forcing people out of the entire wider Gaza City and Jabalia area. So these are for the war crimes trials because this is blanket ethnic cleansing. It's illegal in every possible way. And as I said, they're bragging about it. Netanyahu bragged at the Air Force Base about dropping the towers. And I'm not going to show it to you because it's too specious, but the IDF released a video this week that was similar to the one they released about Shifa, the fake video of the Hamas command center under Shifa Hospital. They released another one of those about the high-rise towers in Gaza that house displaced people that already have all the windows blown out of them from previous attacks. And they showed them and said that they were terror towers and that they're destroying every one of them. At the end of the video, it showed the whole area of Gaza City, the number of these towers that they are intending to knock out. And when they drop these towers, the towers are essentially entire neighborhoods in a tower. They're families, multiple generations of families in the towers. And it's because of the height of the towers, it's the amount of people living in there in the thousands. And so they've started this attack, this part of the war, as I reported weeks ago. The Israeli military drew down in Gaza at the end of Gideon's chariots, what they're calling part 1. And they haven't, they're building up, but they haven't started the invasion of Gaza City at this point. This is strictly a war on civilians, and there's no pretense of anything other than that happening. And it's just incredible. If people didn't see Nora's newscast, she showed some of the videos of the towers being dropped. And you can just see entire, hundreds of families' lives just go up in a plume of smoke. This is strictly a war on civilians. There are still resistance operations, and we are going to take a look at some of those now. Let's take a look at the map of the northern Gaza Strip. You can see Gaza City, Tel El-Hawa, the Shati refugee camp. Those are the areas under displacement orders. Shujaiya and Zaytun, largely destroyed up to this point in Gideon's Chariots 1. Tufa, the same. The Israelis are essentially just demolishing block by block. They're not fighting the resistance. They're not trying to find the resistance to fight. They're just dropping civilian homes with no military pretext whatsoever. There was 7 Qassam operations this week. They hit in defensive positions, which is what we've seen from the resistance operations in the last few weeks since the end of Gideon's Chariots. The operations are breaching operations of Israeli positions. We saw that in Khan Yunis, a breaching operation of an IDF outpost, and we're going to see that again today. The Qassam operation, a video was just released just before we went on air, showing an operation, again, a hand-delivered explosive being placed inside the hatch of a tank. These are the high-quality operations that Qassam said that they were going to be executing. They've created new weapons, guerrilla action devices for these operations to deposit the explosive directly into the hatch of the tanks or the armored personnel carriers. And the field report came out this week from Qassam of the video that we won't see. I'll break it down for you next week because it just came out as we were going on air. But the field report, again, matches exactly what you see on the video. Qassam says, were able on Monday to raid a position where enemy soldiers and vehicles were fortified. One of our fighters was able to climb on top of the Merkava tank and throw a Bark guerrilla action device inside the cockpit, which led to the killing and wounding of the tank's crew. This occurred in the Al Omari area in the center of Jabalia City in the north of the West Bank. Our fighters observed the landing of the medevac helicopters for evacuations. This operation was clear that they had waited for the return of the tank to come back to their position after moving. And that is the time where their intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance would have shown in previous days that that's when they pop the hatch to get air in. When they're back in their outpost, they believe they're safe in their base, and the resistance attacked them. And that's what the preliminary IDF probe pointed out, that 3 Qassam operatives launched an attack on an army encampment in the Jabalia area. Around 6 a.m. The incident took place shortly after the troops had arrived at the outpost following their night activity. And they killed all 4 of the tank crew instantly, which the IDF acknowledged as well this week. Let's take a look at some of the other operations this week. This is in Jabalia. They're calling these operations the Staff of Moses. This is to go This is the part of the battle renamed from the previous battle, which was Stones of David. We see the fighter here. He's saying, "We are the ones who pledged allegiance to God in struggle, and we will maintain this pledge to fight as long as we live." He then quotes a poem by Sudanese writer Muhammad Abdel Bari. The poem ends, "And we will remain on the mountain of archers, and behind us the voice of the prophet shaking us. Do not leave, do not leave." And this is a poem that refers to the Battle of Uhud in the Quran, where the archers left their positions on the mountain. 50 archers left their positions, costing the Muslims the battle. We also saw that poem be used in Shuja'iyah during the second battle of Shuja'iyah. So here we see fighters advancing on a tank from cover, behind cover. They fire a Yasin strike, a direct hit on the tank. And the fighter here, you're going to see he uses the smoke and the chaos of the strike on the first tent as concealment to now we see him running. We're with the cameraman here. The camera is on board with the fighter as he's running up to the armored personnel carrier and depositing the explosives into the hatch of the armored personnel carrier, attempting to put it in the hatch. And here we see the fighter returning to his base safely in this operation. It's a remarkable operation. There you see the guerrilla action device detonate in that operation. The fighters both return because you can see both cameramen in this operation in Jabalia. Again, you see it detonating there. A successful operation. Didn't go into the hatch. The hatch was locked on both of these operations. But here is the guerrilla action device. So now we're seeing another type of guerrilla action device. We've seen several of these throughout the war. At the beginning of the war, we were seeing them as Yasin 105 warheads that had magnets on them. And we saw the fighters go and stick them in between the turret gap, between the hull and the turret of the tank, and pull the pin, and the magnetic Yasin warhead sticks onto the tank and explodes. This is a different type that we're looking at here. I just want to draw your attention to it. They're able to adapt these weapons throughout the course of the war to carry out the operations that need to be, that they have seen an opening going into the war. They had many guerrilla action devices, but they were, like I said, magnetic. So they were presuming that you stuck them on the outside of the tank. But throughout the battle, the fighters had witnessed, we've all witnessed, Israeli tanks driving around with the hatch open and the commanders with their heads outside of the hatch, or while they're parked in their positions, the Israeli soldiers, the tank crew open the hatches to get air, and that left a vulnerability that Qassam is now exploiting with these guerrilla action devices. And I just want to show you that they have a different type of one. The announced operation that killed 4 tank crew was a Bark, the lightning explosive device, and this is a different one that we're seeing here. In this next slide, you can see Qassam has pointed out this is the fighter returning to his base safely after depositing the guerrilla action device in the previous video that you saw. And it says, "In vain they try to uproot us, but we will sprout from the blood." And that's, again, Staff of Moses operations that are in defense of Gaza City and Jabalia. And we have another operation from the same series here. This one, you're going to see, we're watching now a fighter crossing through open space. There's a berm made by the Israelis to protect their tank. And we're watching the fighter here creep up the berm and walk. We see a company of tanks and armored personnel carriers. There's the zoom in on him, literally climbing up on top of the Namr troop carrier. And he attempts to open the hatch. And in the field report, Qassam said the hatch was closed. So he's going to retreat here safely to his base, and the fighters are going to come up and launch Yasin strikes against those 2 tanks and Namr troop carriers. So we're seeing these actions. We've seen them. The Israelis are saying, the Israeli military is saying that these are new, bold actions. But people who have been watching the Resistance Report and watching the Resistance since the beginning of this war know the fighters have been bold all throughout this war. The guerrilla action device requires a boldness to affix it. And people even who watched the Second Intifada, the boldness of Palestinians around Israeli tanks is something that starts very young. It's not just the resistance fighters, it's also the stone-throwing children who confront tanks in the previous generation of Israel's war on the Palestinians. But there you can see the green triangle is the Qassam fighter climbing up on top of the Namr. You see him there. Now he's up on top, and he's trying to there's 2 hatches on the top of the Namr, and he's trying to open those, and they are locked. And then we've seen this before too, firing rounds from small arms at the same time as they fire the Yasin. I believe that's to try to distract the active protection system, the trophy system that's on, or the Iron Fist in some cases, that the firing on the sensors messes that up. That is the belief of what is going on here. But the battle is, of course, beyond Gaza. It is also in the West Bank. This is a video of Saraya al-Quds that they have put together. Interestingly, some look like they have captured Israeli military gear, which goes with an Army radio report earlier this week that captured Israeli gear was found. These are also operations previously in the battle in northern Gaza, in the Tulkarem and Jenin camps, as well as Nur Shams camps. And it's a promo video that Saraya al-Quds put out to say that we're here, we're on the battlefield, we're carrying out these operations. And it ends with saying, "Our struggle is ongoing, and we will continue to fight you until the liberation of Palestine, all of Palestine." And there was an operation today reported, a Shuja IED, named after the commander in the Tulkarem camp. And he's from the Tulkarem camp. He's overall commander of Saraya al-Quds in Tulkarem. That operation wounded 2 IDF soldiers inside a troop carrier. And today is 232 days of siege of the camps in Jenin, and it's been 8 months, full 8 month siege on those camps. Earlier this week, Army radio reported several Palestinians tried to return to the Jenin camp, which they have been expelled from, and the Jenin camp is in the process of being destroyed. They went back to look for belongings, and Israel shot and killed a number of them, which is exactly what Israel did in 1948 when they ethnically cleansed Palestine the first time. And they anyone coming back were called infiltrators. If they went back, Palestinians went back to try to get their belongings or to get some of their sheep because they had been driven out. They were killed by Israeli forces. And when you see that happening in Jenin, it definitely reminds you of that time. And just to give you a sense, though, in August, there was more than 180 clashes, stone-throwing clashes between youth and the Israeli military in the West Bank. These are happening every single day. Just a nutshell of a single day in September, September the 8th, there was an attack in occupied East Jerusalem that killed 17 were wounded, but there was also clashes elsewhere around Jerusalem, but also in multiple places in Ramallah, multiple places in Jenin, multiple places in Tulkarem, in Nablus as well, and in Halil Hebron, in the Al-Fawar camp. There's operations and clashes and resistance and refusing to submit operations going on in the West Bank all through the time that we are focused on Gaza in these reports. Of course, it's worth noting, of course, also that Israel's Operation Summit of Fire, the United States lured Hamas negotiators to Doha for a pretty sparse ceasefire agreement. And Israel used that opportunity to attempt to assassinate the Hamas leadership, but definitely destroyed the negotiations, which is just further proof that Israel is not interested in any kind of negotiation, likely collapsing the negotiations entirely. No interest in their POWs. And we saw last week those POWs in a video released by Qassam. Qassam's shadow unit showed 2 of the captives being driven around Gaza City. And you can see these 2 captives, these 2 soldiers, we saw them previously in the middle camps during the ceasefire. And the 2 soldiers, they introduce themselves to each other in this Qassam video, and the soldiers say, "How did you get here?" Qassam wanted to show that these captives are being moved, and the captives are in Gaza City, and Israel doesn't care about that. Obviously, we've known that throughout this entire war, but the attack on Qatar and Doha definitely proved that point. Let's take a look at Yemen briefly here, because Yemeni support operations are continuing. This is the map we've shown before. The yellow are the areas of Israeli strikes in so-called Houthi territory, Ansar Allah territory, which is not a significant indicator. They control more territory than that map indicates. This is an Israeli map. But you can see the outer rings there. That's showing the range of the ballistic missiles and the drones, particularly the outer ranges that cover Israel are the Palestine 2 ballistic missile that we've been showing throughout the war, and the drone, the Yafa drone, which we saw penetrate Israel multiple times this week. 38 operations in the past 2 weeks, Abdul Malik al-Houthi said, 23 drone ops, and a number of ballistic missile operations that we can take a look at. One of those, let's take a look at number 12. This shows the graphic of where these drone operations targeted. The Air Force, the Yemeni Armed Forces carried out wide-scale military operations with several drones targeting multiple objectives across Israel. One drone targeted Ramon Airport, the international airport down in Eilat. That is on the bottom of the map that you see there. There was 3 drones towards two sensitive sites in the Negev. They don't say what those 2 sites are, but that's the there was reports in the Israeli press that there was sirens in the Dimona nuclear around the nuclear facility, and also Navatim Air Base, which is the air base that's used for the attacks on Yemen and elsewhere. The attacks on Iran were from that base. Up, you could see up higher, there was the bottom dot is Ashdod. There was a drone attack targeting Ashdod. In Ashdod, there's multiple. There's a refinery and a power plant that are usually what the Yemeni Armed Forces is aiming at. And then up further, you can see Ben Gurion Airport as the target. The Yemeni Armed Forces said, the Yemeni Armed Forces confirmed that they will escalate their military operations and will never retreat from the position of supporting Gaza, regardless of the consequences. Yemen was bombed yesterday. 35 people were killed, 150 wounded. The Yemeni Armed Forces also warned all aviation companies that airports inside occupied Palestine are unsafe and they will be consistently targeted. The Armed Forces of Yemen bear no responsibility for any consequences and stress the need for the immediate halt to all flights into these airports as they are no longer secure. This is part of the airport blockade. That's in addition to the naval blockade that the Yemenis have continued. Let's look at 13 because you can see the drone strike on Ramon Airport. It hit the passenger lounge. It was within feet of airliners. So obviously a direct hit that made it through Israeli defenses. And you can see that there on the Ramon Airport. Number 14 shows another drone that penetrated. This is an Israeli Apache helicopter, American Apache helicopter chasing IDF flown American helicopter chasing one of these Yafa drones. And you can see it shooting it down here at the end of this video. There was a number of reports from the ground in the West Bank this week and throughout Israel, people reporting watching the drones flying overhead. We saw that as well in the Lebanon front in the war. We saw the Israelis chasing drones around, and that's what we're seeing there. We look at number 15. 2015. There was also a qualitative development in the Yemeni front that was announced by Abdel Malik al-Houthi at the end of last month. The missile force announced the significant achievement of developing cluster warheads for the Palestine 2 missiles. These cluster warheads split into multiple warheads that's on the re-entry vehicle. Abdel Malik al-Houthi says a major qualitative achievement that has deeply alarmed the enemy. Sirens blared in over 200 locations and millions rushed to shelters, and air traffic was suspended at Ben Gurion Airport. So they have announced the use of cluster munitions in that warhead where the Kafia is. That's the re-entry vehicle. And inside of that are multiple warheads, which means that the air defense systems have to track a number of those missiles, a number of those warheads from the same missile. We can see that from civilian camera in number 16 here. This last video shows what that cluster munition looks like, and it makes it very difficult for the interceptors to pick each one out and to knock it out of the air as it's already entering. Most of these missiles, Israel is attempting to hit them in the outer atmosphere before they break apart like that. But that is a major development on the Yemeni front. So that is what has been going on in Gaza, the West Bank, and Yemen. And that is the resistance report for day 706 of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza.
Thank you, John. So much happened this week. And thanks for that overview, as always. Yeah, and we have a lot to discuss. I always have questions for you, John, but maybe we'll hold them until after Asa's short segment, because we want to get through as much as we can. But thank you again for that fantastic overview. Just some spectacular videos this week. So Asa, you've returned to covering British politics recently. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that, and then we will come back for the full group discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Nora. Well, on the weekend we published my latest piece titled "Will Corbyn Allow Zionists to Sabotage Him Again?" And it's about the former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn's efforts to start a new political party and the divisions within that movement over Zionism and anti-Zionism. The left-winger and Palestine Solidarity campaigner Jeremy Corbyn became leader of the then opposition Labour Party in 2015. And as readers of my book, Weaponizing Anti-Semitism, will know, Corbyn was relentlessly sabotaged by the State of Israel and its lobby for the following 5 years, despite coming close to power in the 2017 general election. He lost the 2019 general election and stepped down as leader of the party the following year. And then, in October 2020, he was removed as even a backbench Labour MP by pro-Israel party leader Keir Starmer, who is now the Prime Minister, for the sin of correctly stating that the issue of anti-Semitism had been exaggerated by his political enemies. But Corbyn didn't do himself any favours during the Israel lobby sabotage campaign. He softened his previous stances and tried to pander to the Labour Party's internal pro-Israel lobby, especially the Jewish Labour Movement, which is an explicitly Zionist group which acts as a proxy for the Israeli embassy in London. And you can see from this article that I wrote, in October 2023, they actually claim credit for bringing down Corbyn. That's kind of been forgotten now because it was shortly before 7th of October they did this. You can read my book for all the details, but for example, in 2017, Corbyn's spokesman James Schneider told me and other media that Corbyn did not support the BDS movement, but only, quote, targeted action against Israeli settlements. Moreover, the party under Corbyn's leadership constantly suspended and expelled activists for legitimate anti-Zionist statements, which Israel and its lobby had falsely smeared as anti-Semitism. This never did Corbyn any good and only fueled the crisis, while expelling some of his closest and most high-profile allies, including Jackie Walker and the left-wing MP Chris Williamson. Now, of course, the biggest of these political guns was Ken Livingstone, the former mayor of London and an anti-racist pioneer. You may remember that in a 2016 BBC radio interview attempting to defend Corbyn, the former mayor accurately stated the historical fact that the Nazis had supported the Zionist Federation as one way to rid Germany of Jewish people in the 1930s. Livingstone was promptly suspended as a Labour member and spent 2 years in limbo being
airport as the target. The Yemeni armed forces said the Yemeni armed forces confirmed that they will escalate their military operations and will never retreat from the position of supporting Gaza regardless of the consequences. Yemen was bombed yesterday. 35 people were killed, 150 wounded. The Yemeni armed forces also warned all aviation companies that airports inside occupied Palestine are unsafe and they will be consistently targeted. The armed forces of Yemen bear no responsibility for any consequences and stress the need for the immediate halt to all flights into these airports as they are no longer secure. This is part of the airport blockade. That's in addition to the naval blockade that the Yemenis have continued. Let's look at 13 because you can see the drone strike on Ramon Airport. It hit the passenger lounge. It was within feet of airliners. So obviously a direct hit that made it through Israeli defenses. And you can see that there on the Ramon Airport.
See mainstream media.
IDF flown American helicopter chasing one of these Yafa drones, and you can see it shooting down here at the end of this video. But there was a number of reports from the ground in the West Bank this week and throughout Israel, people reporting watching the drones flying overhead. We saw that as well in the Lebanon front in the war. We saw the Israelis chasing drones around, and that's what we're seeing there. We look at number 15. There was also a qualitative development in the Yemeni front that was announced by Abdul Malik al-Houthi at the end of last month. The missile force announced the significant achievement of developing cluster warheads for the Palestine II missiles. These cluster warheads split into multiple warheads. That's on the re-entry vehicle. Abdul Malik al-Houthi says a major qualitative achievement that has deeply alarmed the enemy. Sirens blared in over 200 locations, and millions rushed to shelters, and air traffic was suspended at Ben Gurion Airport. So they have announced the use of cluster munitions in that warhead where the Kafia is. That's the re-entry vehicle, and inside of that are multiple warheads, which means that the air defense systems have to track a number of those missiles, a number of those warheads from the same missile. We can see that from civilian camera in number 16 here. This last video shows what that cluster munition looks like, and it makes it very difficult for the interceptors to pick each one out and to knock it out of the air as it's already entering. Most of these missiles, Israel is attempting to hit them in the outer atmosphere before they break apart like that. But that is a major development on the Yemeni front. So that is what has been going on in Gaza, the West Bank, and Yemen. And that is the resistance report for day 706 of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza.
Wow. Alright. I'm gonna leave it there. If you want to support the channel, like the VOD, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Free Palestine. Fuck Israel. Peace.